When my 7-year-old daughter handed my multimillionaire father her hand-painted birthday gift, she expected a hug. Instead, he sneered, called it cheap junk, and dropped it into the trash right in front of her tear-stained face. My heart shattered into 1,000 pieces. I swallowed my rage, took my daughter by the hand, and walked out of his life forever. But I couldn't leave that discarded canvas behind. I quietly retrieved it from the trash, framed it, and kept it safe. 7 years later, that exact cheap painting was put up for bidding at an elite art auction and sold for $2 million. My father immediately called, demanding every penny, claiming the gift was legally his. But at the victory exhibition, the anonymous buyer stepped forward to reveal who actually painted the base canvas. And my father's arrogant grin froze in absolute horror. My name is Jay Summers. I'm 34 years old, and for the past 7 years, I've worked twice as hard as anyone I know just to give my daughter Lily a peaceful, dignified life. You see, I wasn't raised in a struggling household. I was raised in a palace built on cold, hard cash. My father, Arthur, is a multi-millionaire real estate tycoon in Seattle, a man who measures a person's worth entirely by their bank account and the brand of their watch. The nightmare started on Arthur's 60th birthday. He held a grand, lavish party at his estate, surrounded by high society guests, expensive champagne, and glittering designer gifts. Lily was only 7 at the time. She had spent 2 whole weeks carefully painting a small canvas for her grandfather, using every color in her little watercolor set. When her turn came, she proudly walked up and handed him her wrapped present, her eyes shining with pure joy. Arthur unwrapped it, took one look at the colorful hand-painted canvas, and his lip curled in utter disgust. "What is this cheap garbage?" he sneered loudly, his voice echoing across the quiet hall. Before anyone could react, he tossed the painting directly into the tall brass trash can right beside his desk. Lily's smile shattered. Tears welled up in her innocent eyes as she looked down in pure humiliation. That was the exact moment something inside me snapped. I didn't scream. I didn't make a scene. I simply walked over to the trash can, picked up my daughter's painting, tucked it tightly under my arm, and took Lily's hand. We walked out of that mansion, leaving my father and his toxic wealth behind for good. After that humiliating night at my father's estate, I cut all ties with Arthur completely. I changed my phone number, moved into a cozy 2-bedroom apartment on the other side of town, and threw myself into my work as a freelance graphic designer. It wasn't an easy life, but it was honest, peaceful, and filled with genuine love. Lily grew up into a brilliant, compassionate teenager, completely free from the toxic shadow of her grandfather's arrogance. As for that discarded painting, I never let it out of my sight. The very next morning after the party, I bought a modest wooden frame, placed Lily's colorful artwork inside, and hung it proudly on our living room wall. To us, it wasn't just a simple childhood painting. It was a symbol of our strength, our dignity, and the day we chose pride over my father's money. For 7 long years, we lived in quiet peace. Until one rainy Tuesday afternoon, when an old family friend, Julian, came over for coffee. Julian was a renowned art restorer who had worked with top museums across Europe. As we sat talking, his eyes suddenly locked onto Lily's painting hanging on the wall. He stood up, walked over to it, and stared at it in dead silence for nearly 5 minutes. When he finally turned around, his hands were trembling. He asked me where we had gotten the canvas. When I explained that Lily had painted over a thick, old blank board my father had stored in his garage years ago, Julian gasped. He revealed that beneath Lily's bright acrylic strokes lay a faint, distinct texture, the unmistakable signature priming method of a long-lost 19th-century European master. Lily hadn't just painted on a cheap board. She had painted over a hidden, multi-million-dollar masterpiece. Julian didn't waste a single moment. With our permission, he brought the canvas to his state-of-the-art lab. Using non-destructive infrared scanning and micro-restoration techniques, Julian achieved the impossible. He managed to carefully clean and bring out the stunning 19th-century oil painting beneath, while expertly preserving Lily's bright, heartfelt brushstrokes right on top. The result was a breathtaking fusion of classical mastery and modern emotional history, a piece Julian titled "Forgiveness Over Pride." Once the art world verified the canvas's extraordinary dual heritage, word spread like wildfire among elite collectors. A prestigious auction house in downtown Seattle reached out, pleading to feature the artwork as the star centerpiece of their annual summer gala. Lily and I agreed under one condition: we would remain completely anonymous until the hammer dropped. On the night of the auction, the grand hall was packed with billionaires, gallery owners, and high society art lovers. Lily and I sat quietly in the very back row, wearing simple dresses, our hands clasped tightly together. When the velvet curtain pulled back to reveal the painting, a collective gasp swept through the room. The auctioneer cleared his throat, raised his gavel, and opened the bidding at a staggering $500,000. Within seconds, absolute chaos broke out on the floor. Bidding paddles flew into the air from every direction. 600,000! 800,000! $1 million! My heart was pounding so hard against my ribs I thought it would burst. Two telephone bidders from London and New York began a fierce, ruthless price war, driving the numbers higher and higher. Finally, the auctioneer slammed his gavel down onto the wooden podium, his voice booming through the speakers. "Sold for $2 million to the gentleman on the phone." The room erupted into thunderous applause. Lily squeezed my hand, tears streaming down her smiling face. We were rich beyond our wildest dreams. The news of the historic $2 million auction sale exploded across national art blogs and local television networks by the very next morning. Headline after headline praised the miraculous story of a long-lost masterwork restored beneath a child's innocent brushstrokes. And of course, it didn't take long for the news to reach the gilded mansion of my father, Arthur. For 7 long years, he hadn't sent a single text, birthday card, or dollar to support his only granddaughter. But the moment the figure $2 million flashed across his television screen, his long-lost parental instinct suddenly kicked in. My phone buzzed relentlessly on Wednesday afternoon. When I finally answered, there was no hello, no how are you, and certainly no apology for how he had treated us 7 years ago. "Jay," Arthur barked, his voice dripping with arrogant authority. "I saw the news. That canvas came from my garage, and the painting was given as a birthday gift to me. That $2 million legally belongs to my estate, and I expect every cent transferred to my corporate account by Friday." I was so stunned by his shameless audacity that I almost laughed. "You threw that painting in the trash, Arthur," I reminded him coldly. "You rejected it, humiliated Lily, and discarded it in front of 50 people." "That was a minor misunderstanding," he snapped back. "My legal team is already preparing to sue you for conversion and theft. Hand over the funds, or I will destroy you in court, bankrupt you with legal fees, and take everything you have." 2 days after Arthur's ridiculous threat, the downtown gallery hosted an exclusive victory exhibition to honor the painting and officially hand over the auction proceeds. The hall was filled with reporters, art critics, and high society patrons, all eager to see the famous masterpiece up close. Lily and I stood near the velvet rope, listening to the gallery director praise the emotional depth of the piece. But just as the director picked up the ceremonial oversized check to present to us, the grand double doors of the hall slammed open. A heavy silence fell over the crowd as Arthur marched down the center aisle, dressed in a tailored three-piece suit. Trailing right behind him were two aggressive men in dark suits carrying leather briefcases, his legal team. "Stop this farce immediately!" Arthur's voice boomed through the high-ceilinged gallery. Cameras flashed continuously as reporters turned toward the commotion. Arthur stopped right in front of us, pointing a trembling, greedy finger at the $2 million check. "That money belongs to me," he announced loudly to the press. "This woman is my estranged daughter. 7 years ago, she wrongfully removed that canvas from my private property. My lawyers have just taken action in Superior Court. Any transfer of these funds is an illegal act." The gallery director froze, looking panicked. The crowd began whispering nervously, watching the public spectacle unfold. Arthur turned to me with a smug, cruel smile, leaning in close so only I could hear. "I told you, Jay, you can't beat me. Hand over the check now, or I'll have you handcuffed in front of your daughter." Before Arthur could enjoy his triumphant moment, a slow, deliberate clap echoed from the back of the gallery. The crowd parted as a tall, distinguished man with silver hair walked forward. It was Victor Sterling, the multi-billionaire tech mogul and the anonymous buyer who had won the auction. Arthur's smug smile instantly withered into a look of absolute terror. Victor had been Arthur's former business partner 20 years ago, before Arthur betrayed him and stole his real estate firm's assets. "Still trying to bully women and children, Arthur?" Victor said, his voice quiet yet commanding. He turned to the crowd and reporters, holding up official legal records for everyone to see. "Let me clear up this little fantasy for everyone here." Victor explained that 22 years ago, Arthur had wrongfully removed several private art pieces from their joint corporate office during their ugly split, including this very canvas. But then, Victor brought out even more proof that sealed Arthur's fate entirely. "Furthermore," Victor continued, looking Arthur dead in the eye, "under state law, when you tossed that painting into a trash can in front of 50 witnessed guests 7 years ago, you legally abandoned all rights, claims, and ownership of the physical property. We have sworn statements from 3-party guests, along with high-definition security footage from your own estate that night, showing you throwing it away." Arthur's face turned an ash-gray color. His high-priced lawyers looked at each other, exchanged a nervous glance, and slowly stepped away from him, realizing they didn't have a leg to stand on. Victor smiled warmly, turned to 14-year-old Lily, and handed her the official ownership release. "I bought this painting because of your incredible story, young lady," Victor told her gently. "The money is legally and rightfully yours. Nobody can ever take that away from you." Arthur stood frozen in the middle of the gallery, surrounded by flashing cameras, whispering crowds, and the crushing weight of his own greed. Humiliated, abandoned by his own legal team, and exposed to the entire city, he turned around and slunk out of the building like a beaten dog. His reputation in the Seattle business community was completely destroyed, and he didn't receive a single penny of the fortune he thought he could steal. As for Lily and me, that night changed our lives forever. We placed the $2 million into a secure trust fund for Lily's future and used a portion of it to launch the Lily's Art Foundation, a nonprofit organization dedicated to providing free art supplies and scholarships to underprivileged young artists who just need someone to believe in them. 14-year-old Lily is now thriving, applying to top art academies, and living with the confidence of knowing her worth can never be dictated by anyone's money or cruelty. Looking back at that painful night 7 years ago, I realized that my father throwing away her gift was actually the greatest blessing in disguise. He thought he was throwing away trash, but he was really handing us our freedom. Now, I want to ask all of you watching this story today, if you were in my shoes, would you have ever given your father a second chance, or would you have walked away forever like I did? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I read every single one. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and click the video on your screen for another mind-blowing story.